And welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint. I am your host, James Just. With me today is Mr. Alexander Vasquez. Alexander, there's been a lot of people are upset over Doge and the AIs.
Right.
But the most recent claim of insecurity that these people are complaining about is that Doge's surveillance, the AI surveillance of the bureaucracy movements, right? They're kind of they set up an AI so they can kind of track bureaucratic movements, they can kind of track payments and these kind of things. So they now have an AI to help track that, and they're claiming, there's a claim here that it's risks silencing whistleblowers, and which of course if you silence whistleblowers, the claim is that you are going to weakening democracy. But I'm questioning which whistleblowers are being silenced. It's just an assertion without any...
Yeah, well, I mean, this is still new. I mean, how long has Elon been doing this? What, a couple months now?
Yeah, well, 100 days, right? We're 100 days in.
Okay.
Last week, we're 100 days in.
And so breaking the system, breaking the governmental chamber that we have, and to have Elon come out of like literally nowhere, from a rocket space, from a rocket ship, and just open up the floodgates, but also shake up the country club. And that's what Trump was elected for, to shake things up, and that the bureaucracy is like an animal all unto itself, and nobody seems to know how to tame it, let alone take it down. Well, I think he has found a way, and even though he may be leaving soon, he has a whole army of people that are still going to attack this, and it's got people nervous. But it's really hard to measure this right now, and I think just people are nervous because he's putting his nose into people's business.
Well, here's the thing, the bureaucracy has been surveilling us. For anybody who's watched the show for any length of time, we've been talking about government surveillance for literally over 30 years.
Right.
And now all of a sudden when that surveillance gets turned onto the bureaucracy, now all of a sudden it's a threat to democracy. Somehow when the bureaucracy is surveilling mass surveillance of the average person, that's fine. But when the average person actually has some semblance of, hey, somebody's watching the bureaucracy now, all of a sudden you can't do that. It's somehow a threat to democracy that the bureaucracy is being watched.
It's more like a threat to communism.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the threat is.
Because the government has become greater than us.
Yes.
They keep saying about the Constitution. Well, the Constitution was designed to keep government in check, not us. But it seems like now that we're starting to get power and we have certain people in office and certain people in departments now that have been selected by the president, now he's telling them, go in there. I'm giving you permission. Let's see what's in there. As the old Don would say, let's go find what dirt is underneath their fingernails.
Well, and here's the thing. If there's no dirt, then there's no dirt. What are you worried about?
Well, exactly.
What did they tell? If you've got nothing to hide, what do you care?
Right.
That's exactly what the bureaucracy has been telling us for decades. And now when that, all of a sudden that spotlight gets turned around on them, they're running like scalded rats or cockroaches in the kitchen or whatever you want to use.
Let me ask you this about this real quick. I find that government now is almost a government that doesn't, they don't honor the people that are saying, we need help, we need this, we need that, okay? And it's almost like they don't care. They're not listening. They're not doing things. And it's almost like it's a burden for them to give us service. I've seen that in Sacramento Unified School District, City Hall, state buildings, representatives. It's like they don't want to be bothered.
I was listening to a conversation the other day, Alexander, that right now the best bureaucracy is actually DMV. DMV is the one bureaucracy that's actually functioning relatively smoothly.
Right.
And if DMV is the piece of bureaucracy that is functioning the best, we're all in trouble.
If we get down to that point where the DMV is the gold standard of government, then we're pretty much screwed. But this is what this is all about.
Yeah.
And I'm glad.
Yeah, and how the DMV got there, because he offloaded a lot of things to the internet, right? You now can go to a kiosk or the internet and do 3/4 of what you used to be able to have to go into DMV to do. So that's one of the reasons the DMV has improved, is because they're simply no longer having to doing as much in person. A lot of that you can now self-service.
And I think also with what Elon's doing and all that other stuff, he's also showing the dirty laundry of government, but he's also exposing that these people are not gods. There's nothing special about a bureaucrat. It's what they call the process. And there's nothing special about it. They're not unique. They're just like everybody else, but they have this big shield in front of them that protects them. And I think people are tired of that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? In us out here in the private sector, or even in nonprofits, you are actually held. You have to actually get your work done.
Right.
You actually have to be able to accomplish your goals, accomplish your mission. You can't go, well, we didn't accomplish our mission, but we're going to go ask to expand it. Nobody in the private sector expands your mission while you're failing.
No.
It's okay, we're going to refocus. We're going to, drop this department. There's some solution before they try and expand, rather than what government does is, yeah, we completely failed at everything, so let's do more.
Yeah. On my show, I usually quote Thomas Jefferson quite a bit. And I even wear a scarf that has this quote on it. And what he says is that when the people are afraid of their government, that's called tyranny. But when the government is afraid of the people, that's called liberty. And I think we have people now who want to get our liberty back. And I mean across the board. I don't care what your political affiliation is. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care about your socioeconomic position. People want to be not taken care of. They want to be listened to, and they want things done.
Yeah, they want to be left alone so they can get some work done. Richard Fields has been running around the world, but he's returned. So let's see what Mr. Richard Fields
Take it away, Richie.
has to say this week.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Richard Fields with this week's Report from the Fields. A couple of weeks ago, I reported on my impressions of my travels on the Silk Road, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. When I filed my report, I had not yet reached the last country on my itinerary, Turkmenistan. The first 4 stands I visited seemed to be stumbling to some sort of accommodation with free market capitalism. In Turkmenistan, not so much. First, the country has been cursed with abundant oil and gas wealth, all controlled by the government. Said government is a Republican in form, but in practice is an autocracy controlled by the president who succeeded his father as president in 2022. It's hereditary one-man rule. The legislature and judiciary rubber stamp the president's wishes. Here's how that affected me as a tourist. First, I had to apply for a visa before traveling to the country. The visa application asked for information like my employment and the names and addresses of my adult children, among many other things. The actual overland border crossing between Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan took 5 hours. 5 hours. And there wasn't a line. I did have to take a COVID test, but it appeared the results were not actually read. 5 hours. I took a domestic flight to the capital city, Ashgabat. Their equivalent of TSA officers wore military uniforms with caps reminiscent of the German caps in Hogan's Heroes. Every building in the capital city of Ashgabat was constructed of imported white marble, Italian white marble. To be fair, the city was largely destroyed by an earthquake in 1948, which killed upwards of 110,000 people. That left a blank architectural slate for the first government after independence from the USSR to build a marble vanity project. Turns out white is one of the favorite presidential colors. In addition to mandated white marble buildings and monuments to himself, all cars in Ashgabat must be white. Light silver is allowed. Green is a second favorite color. All roofs must be painted green. Oh, and ballet is illegal. Those tutus are much too revealing. Turkmen citizens who do not live in Ashgabat are not allowed to enter the city. Hunger Games, anyone? Corruption seems to be a given. The main shopping mall in Ashgabat is owned by a relative of the president, and censorship is omnipresent. My cell phone literally did not work. No internet, no bars anywhere I went in the country, no fan for the Wi-Fi allegedly supplied by the hotel I was staying in, nothing. No way to communicate by email, text, or phone. A country that shows what can happen under one-man rule. One very odd man. That's this week's Report from the Fields. I'm Richard Fields. See you again next week.
Thank you, Richard. That's always Richard always has some good perspectives,
Sure does.
But it's interesting how we're having this big immigration and debate here, and how stringent other countries are about their immigration.
All you have to do is look at their constitution, especially Mexico. I've read their constitution, and their border on the southern side to Central America, it's bad. I mean, they don't play over there. Okay, you're not just going to cross the border, and that's the way it is. And they have very strict rules. If they were ever to give Americans dual citizenship, like we give them dual citizenship, you might as well take the border down, because there would be so many people going back and forth, because Americans aren't allowed to buy land there, or anybody. It's just for the Mexicans. And but let's call it what it is. It's illegal immigration, and the ones that are coming across the border. Yeah. But it's also Mexico. They have a new president now. I think she's going to be changing some things also. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, it's just, just because something says it's democracy or says it's a republic doesn't actually mean that it is. And no. So when we talk about, weakening democracy or saving democracy, it's, define that as a better.
Well, you know what? If you look at their constitution, Mexico's constitution, it says the United States of Mexico. All right?
Yeah.
But our constitution is so much different than theirs.
All right, so we're going to move on, Alexander.
All right.
Kevin O'Leary is talking about the Chinese, we're going to back up, the trade war.
Right.
Kevin O'Leary is essentially talking about the trade war. Now, what's interesting about the trade war is we've been actually in a trade war with China for at least a decade, if not two, depending upon how you want to define this thing, right? For the last decade, it's been clear to anybody who's been paying attention that China has been in a trade war with us. Now, for the first time in my lifetime, we are actually engaging in a trade war. Now, we can argue about how we're fighting that trade war.
Right.
There's room there to have a discussion about how we're engaging in it, but we can't fool ourselves to think that we're not in one, and that we were in one before Trump got into office the first time, let alone the second time.
Right.
And so at least we're fighting it. We disagree about how we're fighting it, but at least we're fighting it. And Kevin O'Leary, he's the big guy from Shark Tank.
Right.
And he says it should be even higher.
Well, he is from the Shark Tank.
Yeah.
They got a different mentality here. The problem with Kevin is sometimes I think he's still on the show. He thinks he's still on the show when he's doing public stuff like this. But let's be honest, too. When did we ever argue about tariffs? I didn't even know what the hell a tariff was until Trump went into the presidency. And then I started reading about it, and I still can't understand the whole thing.
Well, tariffs are just a tax. It's just a tax,
right?
Called with a different name.
Right. But now I'm starting to see American commercials about American products that are being built here, manufactured here, and delivered and distributed and everything like that. And at the end of these commercials, they're saying, "This is where there's no tariff. In other words, bring the jobs home, and we won't have some of this. All right, it'll be jobs for everybody." But that's like economics 101. Now that was so plain, that was so simple, And they show these people making these products, right? Mm-hmm. And they're saying, there's no tariffs here because it's made here.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, now I get, now I get it.
Yeah, and you know, for my libertarian friends out there, we all say, you know, tariffs are wrong, and they are.
Right.
And if you're talking about an open market, tariffs just manipulate the market. So,
right.
So from a pure analytical standpoint, from a pure, you know, academic standpoint, you are 100% correct. The problem is we don't live in a free market. We never have, and so we can agree that tariffs fundamentally, you know, when you impose them on a free market, tariffs, they don't really do any good. But we don't have a free market. We're talking about countries that, you know, we've talked about this with John, that he's got a friend who's an importer, and the import tariff book is like, it's like as thick as a Bible. Yeah. So let's not fool ourselves to thinking that Trump's tariffs are anything new. It's just a different, we've just escalated the war that already existed.
Yeah, he wants a fight.
Yeah.
Okay, he wants a fight, and he believes that we have been getting screwed here in the United States. And he wants to take it to them because, let's face it, we're still the big boys on the planet, right?
Yeah.
And we still hold a lot of weight. And he's using that. And I think is bringing other countries in to negotiate tariffs and prices and all this other stuff. And I think that's a good thing. But also when you go to your, you know, Safeway local store or whatever like that, I've noticed that, yeah, prices are high and I'm buying less. But I'm buying stuff that are going to be good for me instead of the cakes, the candies, and everything like that.
And everything else. Yeah. You know, well, economics, right? Economics make choices.
Right.
You know, you have to, unlike the government, you know, we have to prioritize.
Yeah.
You know, we can't. Well, we don't have as much money for food, so we're going to have to cut out the cookies and the ice cream,
right,
rather than the broccoli and rice, right? Whatever it is.
It's always the wallet, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
the wallet down to the wallet.
It always comes down to the wallet. So we're going to go over to the pond, over to Europe here for a minute.
Okay,
the Spanish government. If last week we all talked about Spain, what was it? Spain and Portugal kind of had this big, huge blackout. The government blamed some strange atmospheric condition, which happens, right? You get solar flares, and these kind of things can put stress on an electric grid.
Yeah, and spaceships and Martians too.
Yeah, but the grid operator blamed renewables, that they're not flexible enough for that particular time. The renewables, you can't ramp them up and down,
right,
like you can, you know, a gas turbine or you know, a nuclear plant where you can turn it down relatively quickly. Renewables, you have what you have or you don't. And so this is kind of the problem, that renewables don't have that underlying support that you need. They don't have they don't have
enough juice.
Yeah, you don't have the ability to ramp up. They don't have enough overhead, you know, to compensate when there's something strange going on, right?
Okay, now who's this guy?
That is the president of Prime Minister.
What we should do, we should get a hold of Gray Davis and have him call him and say, hey, let me tell you about rolling blackouts, all right? It cost me my job.
Yeah.
So shut up, just get the job done, because it's not hard to trace this stuff, okay? No. Not at all, especially when you have grids. And you know where the problem is. You got computers and everything, all high technology. You could, like I said, and there was probably spaceships and Martians.
Yeah, failures happen, and the sun has been highly the sun has been highly active. So I have no doubt that maybe there, you know, a solar flare hits some substation or something that took it offline, and because there wasn't enough power down grid, it kind of canceled the whole grid. It's,
you know, this guy, he's got to act like a real Spaniard, okay? And just when something goes wrong, just admit it.
Yeah.
We're talking about electricity here, and we don't really control it. Also,
yeah.
I mean,
and the danger is, but it does prove that how fragile everybody's grid is. It's not just theirs. Everybody's grid. We've seen it here in Texas. We've seen it in California. We've seen it in the Northeast.
We're still going to see it.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this summer to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, at least in California, at least in the summer, we do have enough wind and solar.
Right.
It's not the summer that worries me. It's actually the winter.
Yeah.
When we don't have enough sun.
Right.
and
well, you know, it just shows that we're not as tough as we think we are, too.
No.
Okay. The minute I've seen people go hysterical when their AC unit has gone down. You know, I was in the trades for a long time, and you thought they were going to die. And you go, no, you're going to be okay. Don't worry. Just tough it out. We'll get a new unit, but we won't get it till 2 days from now. What am I going to do since then? Think of ways to cool down.
Yeah, go to the store like everybody used to.
Yeah,
You go to the shopping mall. That's one of the reasons shopping malls were so popular back in the 70s and 80s, because you go there to cool off.
Yes, it gave people convenience too. All right, and when people get inconvenient here in the United States and in California, we act like the biggest wussies in the whole wide world.
Well, you want to talk about biggest wussies? We're going to move over to England.
Yeah.
We're going to move over to England. So, green new rules have become absolutely insane over in England, right?
Right.
They can no longer do anything because of environmental regulations. Even the government can't get anything done because their own regulations get in their own way.
Right.
How are you supposed to accomplish anything? I mean, how are you supposed to serve the people? How are you supposed to have their NHS? They don't have enough power. They literally don't have enough power to power their economy.
Yeah, and yet they're trying to save the world. Okay, they're trying to save the planet. Climate change, whatever. They come up with all kinds of things.
And they have enough offshore oil to take care of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last time that France ever had a power outage?
No, they got lots
nuclear.
They got lots of small nuclear plants dotted all over the country.
Yeah. All over the place, like a bunch of jack-in-the-boxes, all right? And yet, people would say, yeah, but the nuclear waste. We always come up with something.
But that's the thing.
Screw ourselves when things like this
The French know how to solve this. They use 98% they recycle their nuclear waste. 98% of it gets used. There isn't really a problem, but we've created these problems. The ideology, the religion of environment has become a problem when it comes into public policy.
And why is it that some of these groups, these environmental groups, they tackle on the most hardest thing to solve, the planet. Next thing you know, they're going to blame the sun for coming up, and they're going to try a way to stop that. I mean, it's like they always come up with something.
Well, they do. They have, right? One of the things, human activity has accidentally created, it has accidentally evolved a planet to unnaturally warm or unnaturally change temperatures, right? So what's their solution? We're going to deliberately alter the environment to create the temperature range we theoretically think it should be. They're literally spraying stuff in the atmosphere, trying to reflect light so we don't heat up as much.
Yeah, but what gets me is that these whack jobs actually believe they can control this and fix it, and they haven't done it yet.
Yeah, somehow the sun going, having its most highly active period we've seen in recorded history,
right?
It has nothing to do with our current climate issues.
No,
it's strange. Staying over in England, though, we're going to move on. The new trains. This is talking about the dangers of public employee trade unions, right? New trains have been delayed by unions trying to have a union. What is it they call it? Activity.
Right.
Yeah. Over who's closing the doors. New trains don't need someone to close the doors, but the unions used to have somebody whose job it was to open and close doors.
Right.
And so now the unions are going to go on strike because the new trains don't need anybody to close the doors.
They want to keep their jobs.
They want to keep their jobs. Their job is more important.
To open the door.
Yeah.
And they probably didn't even say welcome, good to see you, whatever the case may be.
No, security even? Probably not.
Probably not. And if somebody goes nuts in one of those places, in one of those trains, what do? They're probably told, don't get involved. We are wasting humans. we are wasting these humans to tell them, well, the unions are saying, we need people to open up the damn door, all right? But that's all we're going to do, because remember, this is a union job. And so I can't help anybody who has a medical emergency. I can't help anybody if there's a fight going on or robbing somebody or violence or anything like that. All I need to do is just open the damn door. And that's it. That's what I get paid $23 an hour for.
Yeah, and now let's all remember, that's exactly what unions unions are not here to serve you, the public. They're not here to serve anybody but their members.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's just, and that yet they'll complain about corporate board members, executive board members, how they control everything. But so do they.
Yeah. It's just how absolutely dangerous and ludicrous public employees. We've got like 2 minutes, so we're going to, this next one. Trump, reason, article, we got this article, Trump doesn't need to fix housing. What he needs to do is get out the way. But here's the thing, federal government shouldn't have a role in local housing. There's really no role for the federal government. Whether Trump should fix housing or not, it's not relevant because it's not the federal government's role.
And you don't want Trump to fix housing, because if he did, there'd be a big T in front of every public housing building you can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is,
But
remember who we're dealing with here.
But we don't, this is part of the problem. We don't need the government having these big programs to fix
states' rights.
What is a local issue.
States' rights.
It's get housing, to get the local governments out of the way.
Right.
And housing will get fixed all on its own. I mean,
It should.
That's how we fixed it before. This is nothing new.
No, it's not. And like I said, we don't need the federal government in everything that we do.
No, it's kind of gone beyond. All right, I think we are just about out of time, Alexander. I want to thank you for...
Always a pleasure.
No, they gave me all right, we got 2 minutes, Alexander.
Okay, great.
So there's a teen study, right? Jonathan Haidt, I don't know if you know who Jonathan Haidt is, but he's been complaining that cell phones are essentially harming children.
Yes.
But what he did is he did the same problem that a lot of people do. So when cell phones entered the mass market, 1999, 2001, something like that, and he said since then the psychological health of teens has degraded, which is true. But you can back that line up to 1979, the creation of the Department of Education, and make that same argument.
Right.
You can back that thing up farther to the creation of the Great Society,
right?
And make that same argument. So the problem isn't that, is we're looking for these silver bullet solutions or these silver bullet problems as a single cause, and there's not a single cause.
Not when it comes to human behavior and the human condition. Okay, I had a follow-up at my doctor's clinic, and there was 3 children, and each mother had their cell phone with some little rhyme thing and everything like that, just to keep the kid to shut up, just to keep its attention and everything like that. And the kid's, he's zapped, he's in it. Okay, the building his mother could have walked out. As long as she left the phone, the kid was going to be happy. And I'm thinking, oh my God, look what's happening here. I mean, you don't need babysitters now. You just need it. You just need a phone.
Yeah. Well, it's no different.
You don't need snacks.
In the past, you could give a child a book and they could do the same thing.
Right.
But it's no different. I don't think that the device they're using isn't the problem. The problem is that parents aren't giving them the direction that they need. Parents who give the children direction, those kids will be successful. Children who don't get direction from their parents will have a struggle. It's just regardless of the tools they have, regardless of the culture.
Right.
That's what's going to happen.
It's just the way it is.
All right. Thank you for being here, Alex.
Thank
you guys
so
for
much
working
for
in there
having me.
hard. Thank you for watching. Have a good night, and please remember to love everybody.